Yes, it is. Perfect. Hi, my name is Leslie Onstead. I'm the creator of Color Art Products at colorart.com. Good morning, Sally. And I'm your host on ColorPlay Live 3 days a week, usually when the internet's working correctly and all the stars aligned. Tuesdays and Fridays at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, and on Saturdays at 9 a.m. I'm starting a few minutes early just to make sure we've got some connections going on here. The little cable in my Android tablet busted. I ordered one and it didn't fit. Yeah, I spent an hour this morning trying to find the right cable for that darn thing. So I'm waiting to see because I got my laptop over here. Hey, Sherry. Ooh, oh my God, she's saying hi. She's got the kids, so I know your time is very limited, honey. I'm just waiting to see if the laptop on the live takes over so I can see people's comments other than what's on the phone. So give me a minute. I am going to have to turn my head because the tablet's usually this way and the laptop's this way. So let's see if it lets me in because right now it's just kind of showing everybody's still waiting. So I'm going to refresh the screen here and see if my computer, my PC can catch up to what we're trying to do. Give me a commercial to skip. Okay. I'm going to type in the chat. Hey, everybody can see my type. Looks like it might be working. Hey, Leslie from Color Art Creation says hi. That is really weird. It's strange how my PC comes through with orange lettering. Okay, so yes, we had 3 different videos yesterday to try to connect one event. Hey, Patty. Woohoo, good. We've got roll call. Now, yesterday, 25 minutes into our event, the screen went black, but people could still hear me. And we had to roll to another room and start another live. And then it happened a second time, and then we had to roll to another room and start another live. So I apologize. Yesterday's pieces were kind of cut up. I do want to get back to them, but we made a major announcement yesterday that we're going to be doing mystery boxes. And I grabbed one of the trays just to get you guys excited. So basically, everybody knows I need to move. Well, I'm sitting on samples that I've made over the past 19 years. Sample jars. Now, I will redact all the writing on them because they also have recipes on many of the sides of the jars, but I have hundreds of these. So we're going to put together mystery boxes. They'll be equivalent to getting 24 30 ml jars as far as the pigment value, but we're going to put in some prism pour. We're going to put in some other tchotchkes that I may have around here. I might even throw, brand new rubber stamp. I might put in some uh, of the moon rocks. And then the lab also has some of their oopsies that we're going to put in there. So basically, what I'm going to ask you today, if you want to make a reservation, see, I'm not seeing anybody say anything after I'm here too. I'm hoping that this chat is working. Hang on, let me check to live chat because it's going to be important that I'm able to see what you guys are saying so I can tell our moderators what everybody's saying. Okay, so Catherine Mefford said dibs. Catherine Mefford said red. Okay, so what we're going to do is your name, and we know everybody loves blue and turquoise, so don't make blue and turquoise your color. Hey, Evelyn, we know Evelyn loves purple. So basically, if you're going to do dibs on and we have to allow our moderators have a chance to write it down, even though thank God there's going to be a feed. Hopefully, I can go back and review. What you're going to do is give me your name, favorite color. Are you like a purple person? Are you a green person? Are you an orange person like Sherry, or a red person? And then give me a metallic. Are you a gold, copper, bronze person? So, for example, Evelyn Warner, we know she loves purple. Is she gold, copper, or bronze? And is she going to reserve one of the mystery boxes out of the 45 we're going to offer? Now, I pulled up one of my full trays, so be prepared, guys. This is just one of the many trays that are sitting in my baker's racks. Okay. Some of them have, well, Evelyn, if you want to scribe, that would be helpful. Catherine Mefford and Kathleen McGee, and I don't know if McGee is on yet, was also going to try to keep track. But if you want to scribe, I'd sure appreciate it. So here's something that I just called spring something, may be renamed, right? Nothing else on this. And this looks almost like a glitter. This color, I don't even know if it's of a straight mineral blend, even though it looks there's a little bit of color in it. God, that's sparkly. I think I've got some scratch paper here. I mean, I'm not going to do this on every one of them. I'm just going to kind of give you an idea. Well, here's the back of one of the color charts. I wasn't prepared to do any painting with these, but let's see if this is just straight mineral blend, because it looks like a straight mineral. Oh no, look at that. Look at that. That never made it in the line. I know for a fact we never put that in the line. I guess it was supposed to be a spring some sort of thing, but the sparkle of the mica in there, there's this rainbow sparkle, and this is really sparkly, super sparkly. So this is a sample of who we said dibs on green and copper. Okay, so, but we've got to start. So Catherine Evelyn wants to scribe, Catherine will scribe, and Mefford will scribe. So we know that Mefford, I believe, has dibs on a box she wants red. I believe that Kathleen McGee is dibs on the green and she wants copper, but we don't know what Mefford's metallic is. Okay. We know that Sherry, we already have a commitment from Sherry before the broadcast started. Sherry Ellis, Sherry 66, loves orange and bronze. That's going to be her thing, because we're going to put a little metallic thing in the boxes too. So we right now, what we've got, Evelyn, is we've got now, but you have to pick one, Mefford. Bronze, copper, gold. Pick one. And that way, who's ever scribing can say Catherine Mefford, red, gold. Sherry Ellis, orange, bronze. McGee, what did McGee say she wanted? Copper. So McGee wants greens and copper. Okay, so we've got those started. Okay, now here is another purple for you, Miss Evelyn. I think that's what I'm going to have. I'm going to have a lot of purples. And what we're going to do is basically these boxes will have a rainbow. We're going to try to put a nice array in every one of them, but with a slant on this. So this ended up being Temptation. It's a color we ended up making, but this was my version. Looks a little chunky. Remember, I'm doing these by hand. So just pick, you're going to get a little combination of everything, Patty, but if you had to pick out of the three, and everybody's going to get blue and turquoise as much as I can spread around. So don't be afraid of not being able to get the blue and turquoise. But are you a purple or a pink person? Personally, I thought purple and pink kind of belonged in the same decision making, right? But just think about this. I'm going to run through some of these. This is a color I called Heartthrob when I made it. We never had a color called Heartthrob. It could have ended up being another color that ended up being in something. This looks quite sparkly. There's a lot of color in it, so it's taking time to break it down. Man, there's a rainbow effect. This particular group that's in the front row, I was going nuts on the sparkle on these. So, all right, so Patty likes purple and copper. So Patty Simmons dibs on purple and copper. I'm surprised no one's taken gold yet. You guys are so creative. You're not that late to the party, Marjorie. I'm just kind of showing off one of the trays of the mini in my house that are going to have these samples. And Okay, so I called this color burnt caramel when I made it. All right. What are you, buddy? Let's see what you look like. I could do this all day, and I don't necessarily want to do this all day. I want to get to my pieces, but oh, wow. Burnt caramel. That is so pretty. Lots of sparkle in these, especially if you're just taking water and putting them directly on paper. Every bit of the sparkle in them is going to show up. It's really a good idea when you get your set. Of course, not everybody has time to do it. Is just sit down, open up the jars, and kind of just take some scratch paper and become familiar. Did Mark just come in here? We have 4 people so far. So we got Patty, Kathleen McGee, Sherry Ellis, Evelyn Warner, and Kathleen Mefford. Isn't that 5? I think that's 5. Now, why this says dark Georgia peach? Maybe it's my first version of the Georgia peach, because it says dark Georgia peach. Oh, wow. Yes, like some of these I have not seen in years. They were made, labeled, stuck in a jar, put on a shelf. Literally. And as you can tell, I haven't even, and the top just happens to come with a little paper thingy. So when you close the top, it's going to seal it down. Ooh. Oh, this looks like a Sherry Ellis color here. Oh, look at that orange with a rainbow in it. I was doing something crazy at the time when I made these, because look at these rainbow effects in here. Jeez Louise, that's beautiful. Yeah, so the mystery boxes will have the equivalent of, okay, so imagine if you walk outside my garage, there's a baker's rack that's got a 32-ounce container, 3/4 of the way full of Stargazer. I'm never going to use all that Stargazer up, right? I have an entire 16-ounce tub of Spice Pumpkin. So Evelyn Warner, you want purple and gold? Is that going to be your 2 colors? Do we have 5 people? Am I right on that count? We've got Mefford, McGee, Warner, Simmons, Ellis. I'm counting 5 so far. I think there's 5 so far, but who knows how many people are on this broadcast? I can't tell because my tablet normally tells me, and my good morning, Scarlett. You don't see Mark Cummings, Liz and Mark Cummings, are they in yet? Yeah, Sherry Ellis is Sherry 66. Sorry, Evelyn. Sherry Ellis is Sherry 66. And we got a commitment from her this morning on orange and bronze. So we knew that before it started. We had talked. Now this is marked apple rose. So probably it was my little version of when I made apple rose. It actually looks like the apple rose. So when I'm making colors for sets, I sit down and I have to make 12. And it's not uncommon that I will, here's Sweet Tooth. These are the real names. Those are big, chunky thing of Sweet Tooth. I'll sit down and I might make 13 colors. I could make 17 colors. I could do 20 colors. They're all put in containers. Then I might modify them a little bit, change my mind, and then I'm sending in 12 recipes, and the rest of them are just stuck in a tub. Okay, so here's a different green. All it has is 1204B. I'm sure that meant something to me at the time. There was a reference for that. It's obviously some kind of green. Ooh. Boy. Again, this whole row has some extra sparkle in it. If I had to guess, these colors look like they're from putting on the glitz, because those were the super glitzy colors. I'm going to swing the tray around and see what's deeper in here. Crap. like I said, I have racks and racks and racks and racks and racks of these. So there's going to, ooh, here's one called Grecian Urn. One Grecian Urn. From Music Man. Two Grecian. Oh, yeah. Okay, buddy. And that's almost full. Look at that. Can you guys still hear me? Because it looks like either you guys are dumbfounded and not saying anything, or the chat is locked up yesterday. Okay, Scarlett said, oh, wow, thank you. That way I know we're still listening. Trying to keep this uh, uh, under control by only opening them one at a time. But, oh, that's really gorgeous blue. Woo! Yeah, I think this entire tray was inspired by the whole putting on the glitz series we went through. This was like January 21 when we did putting on the glitz, and I think there was something Grecian something. I called it Grecian Urn, but I think it ended up being called something else. Yeah, here's Marigold, and that was from putting on the glitz. Here's that one that says Prism Violet. No, that's different. I think that opal's in the other tub that Evelyn wanted. So here's what I'm calling a Prism Violet. Not sure what that means. It's definitely a purple. So you guys get my point. And so if anybody's interested, hey, Sharon, nice to see you. Happy Saturday. We're kind of going through some of the colors in the tubs and taking reservations for the mystery boxes, Sharon. I'm literally sitting on hundreds of these jars of my samples. Yep, we're taking dibs. Yeah, they're going to mark it in there. So what we're doing is someone will say their name, put that blue on my list. Evelyn, put that blue on my list. McGee. So McGee happens to like this Grecian urn while I'm sitting here with a Sharpie. You know, you're not going to be able to get me to do this over the phone or anything, but while we're sitting here in the live, I'm going to say that McGee wants some of this. There's a big container of this, so we can split this definitely in half, right, with somebody else. Kathleen. So McGee, yeah, this is a beautiful blue. Not to take away from that gorgeous purple we just opened up and played with. So let's see, what else do we have here? Spicy apricot. A lot of you remember that. That's an actual color, and it's almost empty. There will be, some might have like only a teaspoon or two in there. The majority have a lot. Obviously, I must have really liked playing with this color when I made it, or I made just a tiny little batch. What's this? No green, but that extra. Spicy apricot. Ooh. Yeah, I can see why I like that color. Well, no, Scarlett, you don't have to pick a color. Here's the deal. We're going to do an array, like a rainbow array in the boxes. It's just like my primary elements set. You'll get a warm color that might be a gold or a yellow. You'll get an orangey tone. You'll get a red tone. You'll get a purple tone and a green tone. But if we had to focus on putting an extra pop of color in your box, would it be purple? Would it be green, orange, or red? And then tell me, do you like gold, copper, or bronze? Because I'm going to be adding some extra minerals in there. And so we can accommodate, let's say Evelyn likes gold and purple. She'll get an extra purple in there, plus maybe some purple mica powder, mineral blend, plus some gold. So the inside advantage is just kind of letting me know what you like. But we're going to, like I said, I have several hundred of jars and snap top pigments. Here's another green, 1204C. It's probably another version of Splendor in the Grass if I had to guess, because it says 1204. Yep. That's probably a version of the splendor in the grass. Now I'm starting to pay attention to what I was doing then, because they both started with 1204. Here's for Catherine Mefford, Candy Apple. I called it Candy Apple. Not much left on this one at all. But you get my point. Samples, 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 lots of them. So the boxes were selling them for $3.75 plus freight. Yes, you can use your credit card and Klarna. There's no limit. You don't have to do Zelle. We're not asking for Zelle. Just charge normal. Klarna will help you, like put it in 4 payments. And we will make sure it's a $475 value. I will put $100 worth more material in there than the value, just to make sure it's packed orange or brown for Marjorie. Orange and brown to me kind of falls into that same thing. Here's one called Falling Star. Doesn't look like there's much in there, but we actually made a falling star, right? Yep, there's that blue. I'm just looking to see if somewhere on the tray there's weird ones that are completely full that never made it. So here's one that says Citronella, which Citronella finally made it into the neon line. Yesterday, I think I showed this, but we didn't have a paintbrush and anything to kind of dip it into. But if I have to guess, it's going to be some kind of goldy, yellowy orange. Yep. Okay, so you get my point. All right. Anybody interested, you can email me or text me. I will be putting them up on the website tomorrow, but once they're up, they'll probably be gone because there's only going to be 45. Hey, Terry, what you're missing is I kind of did a little promo on these mystery boxes we're going to do. I have hundreds and hundreds of these tubs of primary elements that I've made over the years when I'm making the sets, producing the sets, and we're putting together a mystery box, $375 value. What we're asking for you guys, if you want a reservation, they're all going to end up with blue and turquoise, so you don't have to sit and just say, you know, blue or turquoise. We know that's pretty much everybody's favorite. Here's Laguna Azul, probably the original batch that I made the Laguna Azul out of. Oh, wow, there's a big jar full of this stuff, right? And so we're going to do a rainbow array in the boxes. This is beautiful. I'm loving this jar. Let's see what this does. But, and this is so full, I could split this in half easily, if not in thirds. I have so much, Sharon. I have trays and trays and trays of these. I have definitely plenty to make 45 unique boxes. And if I can make another 45, I can, but we're going to start with 45 and make sure that everybody gets what they want. So, oh my God, look at that Laguna Azul. Woo! Yeah, and definitely turquoise. If I asked everybody, do you like turquoise? So choose, let's see, yeah, sharp, what color? And so what you do is pick like a color. Are you a purple fan, an orange fan? And then are you copper, gold, or bronze? Copper, gold, or bronze? Because Patty Simmons, yeah, I know. I love Laguna Azul. It was one of my favorites. And of course, just sadly, I have a habit of wanting to just walk by and pet them. Too bad. But I started thinking, going, what else do I have besides the watercolors? And I looked around at the racks all around me. Remember, I live in a lab. And I went, wait a minute, I'm sitting on all of these. By the way, I started making room to sort the watercolors this morning at 2 o'clock in the morning. I wasn't going to wait for my helper to come over. I started moving boxes around and making room on the tables. Now this color is called Hollyberry. It never ended up being a primary element. It is now obviously in a purely pigment. Now it's really got a lot of red. really a lot of red. So if you have a color like this, super chunky, just be very careful and keep breaking that color down because those chunks are color. They're pieces of color that are breaking down if you get something like that. Yeah, basically you're helping Leslie move. I sell 45 of these. You know, oh, you like that? Yeah, that's a. These are gorgeous. They're pretty. I, I'm not kidding. I think they're gorgeous. And what am I going to do with all of these? Someday paint with them? And by the way, and most of you know this, I'm 71. So today. So what am I going to do with 300 of these other than maybe come to my new house? Maybe we have workshops, do some stuff in the garage and make some clocks and make stuff for sale. But this is a lot of product. Oh, yeah, Kathleen's name's on the bottom of this one already. Terry's favorite metallic is cold copper or bronze. Terry, what is your favorite metallic? Gold, copper, or bronze? We're going to put an extra little something something in the boxes. And someone asked for gold, copper, or bronze. Thank you, Kathleen, for the happy birthday. We will, we'll add an extra little container, probably a mineral that fits that splant that you're looking for. Thank you, guys. Oh, Mike's here. Hey, Mike. I'm going to weave you into the mystery boxes. So to reach that $375 value, we need at least what would translate to 24 ounces of primary elements in the box plus. So I've got all these tubs around me I've got prison pour tubs. I've got moon rocks everywhere. The lab, Mama's who runs the lab now, her mom's like phasing out. I asked her if she had any lab accidents. There's a few, not many, but hey, those will be tossed in the box. These are colors. Some of these colors have never been seen and never will be seen, but they're yours to play with. So we're going to pack them with a lot of loot. But I want to get to today's play. So I'm going to try really hard to take this tray and put it under the table. And it is a huge, the big commercial cookie sheets. Big, giant cookie sheets. See if I can get this underneath here. Oh, crap. Oh, please don't fall on me. It's kind of at a slant. I just stay balanced. Okay, good. When the broadcast is over, I can put it back on top of the table. All right. So the last couple, especially yesterday, we were struggling to try to get through this wet on wet technique for the using fresh plant foliage and the twinkling H2Os, basically using nature as our paintbrush. So I'm going to do as quick a recap as I can, and hopefully we don't run out of broadcast time because we know YouTube kicked us off twice yesterday and we had to come back and start 2 brand new broadcasts behind them. So there is this artist named Art by Anna Carolina on Instagram, and she uses what'd you guys say about resin art? Yeah, but don't be surprised. There may be some resin art tossed in the box too as we run across it. Remember, because everything I make, I have samples of all of it here. So anyway, there's this artist, Art by Anna Carolina, who uses fresh plants from outside basically as her paintbrushes. And she pours color over the top of it. And the patterns of the grasses, or the grasses with their little offshoots or the wild weeds, are so gorgeous when it dried. I had to try this process. So the very first day, bear with me because we're going to get a little bit better and better. Okay. The very first day, now this was a practice canvas. It already had the yellow and the purple in the back. And I had taken trumpet flower leaves, cut them off. Yeah. And all they did was lay it down. Let me see if we get this camera going here. Laid it down and poured color over the top of it. Okay. So I got some of the pattern that I wanted, but see, the back of these leaves have this really great texture, right? So then I did a second one. Okay. And this time I got smart and I wet the leaf with water with my spray bottle, right? Poured it out, pressed the fresh leaves down, and then poured the color over the top of it. All right. I got some pretty good impressions. What was interesting is I first poured pink grapefruit, then the key lime, and then I decided to put some chestnut. And what was really strange is it was drying. All the chestnut sucked into the leaves, and all you could see was the green outside of these while they were drying. Okay. Now, I have last night, I started fooling around with this, adding a little bit of pink anthurium here and there. I had to stop myself. I was having so much fun painting this thing. I wanted to leave some area to show you, okay, how to begin to maybe add some highlight and shadow to the stems so you get that dimensional look. Probably one of my biggest challenges deciding where the light comes from. I I think someday I'm going to be famous for being confused about my light source. Like they'll look at a painting going, oh, she did such a good job over here, but why does it look like the light's coming from here from this thing, but down here the light's coming from here? I have this thing of painting because I get so excited when I see it and then I forget and go, oops, I put my shadows on two different sides that don't make sense. So don't do as I do, do as I say. Kind of decide your light source. We're going to go back to this. This one we're going to touch up. What did you pour? Okay, what I poured over these leaves, I misted the leaf with water, spritzed it and laid it down, made sure it was clean canvas, made sure every leaf made wet contact. Then I poured, which you're going to get some of these, Patty. I took some of my pink grapefruit, really juicy, mixed with more water, little paper cups because they're easier to reuse. But today, if I pour, I'll show you in one of these plastic cups so you can see how much is added to it. But basically, I took the Twinkling H tools, mixed it with water, and I poured pink grapefruit, pink grapefruit, pink grapefruit, pink grapefruit. Then I poured some key lime under here. And then I came back about, I don't know, half hour later, and I went, I want more contrast. So I poured chestnut brown. And 2 hours later, I come back. I didn't see any chestnut brown on the canvas. You couldn't even tell I put it in there. The leaves sucked up the detail of that chestnut brown and started forming all the detail for me. So now I've got this beautiful design that's been started by nature. Now that I can go in, I can take a pen and do tiny detail. I can take a brush pen. I can add, like I said, a shadow on one side and a highlight on the other. So the gold raises up and it looks three-dimensional. I am going to come back to this in a minute. Okay. Yeah. Thank you for saying that. However, I did have the trumpet flowers. This one didn't have much of a flower on it this morning, but I had the trumpet flowers here and they didn't take shape. And I think it's because I didn't put anything heavy on them. So the color would soak up. And then I went and because I had white areas, like hard lines, like this is what's called a hard line. You see what looks like a hard line where it's dried. So I had all these white areas and hard lines. So this was off camera, sadly. I didn't do this in front of you guys. I just took a wet paintbrush with a tiny bit of the olivine and some of the key lime, and then crumpled up paper towel, stipple it on top of here so you get an irregular pattern in your background. It's soft and muted. Okay. Now, yesterday's piece that it took us 3 videos to attempt to do, sadly, is sitting next to me. Now, it still needs some more drying, but this is what it looks like after it's sat for 24 hours. Now, what we did on this one, instead of just wetting the leaf and put it down, what I did was, because we have to kind of, here, these are different leaves from a different plant, but it also has good structure. Okay. So what I did was I took, I'm looking for the right brush for this, and try to get a paper towel so I don't mess up my baby wipe here, my puppy pad here, because I love to have these here to keep mopping my brush off when I'm painting, and I don't want to mess it up. So what I did on these is, instead of just wetting and putting it down, I took some of that chestnut brown. Now this is really soupy because it's been sitting for a while. So I'm sorry I didn't get this color all creamy for you. What you want to do is in a really creamy texture. So you kind of mix it up, you get all that water mixed in until it gets into a nice creamy state. We used to do this on rubber stamps. It was a technique called direct color to rubber. And we would apply the color on the rubber stamp. Then we would spritz it and stamp and spritz and stamp and keep creating patterns. So in this one, I want to try to apply. Now this is, I wish this was just a little bit thicker. It is going on a little bit smoother than yesterday. Okay. But look at all the veins popping up as I'm doing this. Okay. Now, if I wanted to make it more interesting, it may not just all be one color. Yes, Leslie is a Gemini. Thank you, Terry. She's such a sweetheart. Yes. Okay. So now in hindsight, I kind of wished I'd used pink anthurium in the chestnut in this very first one. But just for grins and giggles, I do have a practice canvas back here. We've made various, I've used it for, where is this thing? I had it right here. We've used it for various painting on top of, so it's not perfectly clean. And by the way, since I'm actually talking about this subject, when I'm ready to do these for real, something I want to hang on my wall, canvas, even primed, is not necessarily the most perfect surface for the watercolors because you want that beautiful feathery, shimmery look, right? Well, what you want to do is actually prep your canvas with what they call absorbent ground white. This is actually designed to make your canvas behave like it's watercolor. I couldn't find my other one. I had Daniel Smith watercolor ground, and then I also have this. So what you do is you put a light layer on your canvas, let it dry overnight, sand it with the finest sandpaper you can, so you created a surface that is prepped to take the watercolor. Right now, I'm just practicing. I want to get the technique down. Like, do I rubber stamp with the leaf first, blow it with a blow dry and color it in? Do I let it sit overnight like this technique? Because this is still wet. I'm going to have to hit this with a heat gun if I want to do anything to it like we're doing on those other ones, adding the peach tones. So when I'm ready, when I think I've actually practiced enough and I got an idea, I'll start prepping my canvases with this, because then that's something I can give away as a gift, sell, put on my wall, side hustle, whatever it may be, right? So I just want to do a little practice thing, pretend that this is a rubber stamp. Go with me here. And I If I had done this technique, I would have applied all the color. Then I do a light mist. I don't know if anybody's going to come off. I'm cutting out. Can you guys hear me? Please tell me we're not cutting out. Okay. Now, normally I would never put a rubber stamp on a canvas because this has got too much of a gap. It's not tight enough. Well, wait a minute. Let me get a regular piece of paper here. That cardstock we were playing on would work. I don't want to ruin my canvas, guys. So I'm trying to find something I can. There we go. I got something here I can stamp on. Okay. So just for grins and giggles, so you can see how the rubber stamp worked. And there's still residual color left because the twinkling H2Os are so strong. I could unpack a dirty stamp at a trade show, spritz it with water, and rubber stamp with the stamp. Now, you're watching me push it down and making sure all part of this rubber stamp is made contact. But that's color that was left on that stamp from, I don't know, I think I did this event, March 9th was the last time I played with the twinks on that. And that's still really pretty. You could take a little paintbrush and touch that thing up. So that's how the direct color to rubber works on a rubber stamp, okay? So what I want to try to do is see if maybe instead of just wetting it with water and pouring color over the top of it, like the first one, or yesterday I did this to the leaves, but then I just pressed them down and pour color underneath them. This time I want to spritz it as if it was my rubber stamp, right? And lay it down. Now, to make contact, you know, my little brayer is kind of messed up and my big, ooh, damn it. To make contact, you don't want to do what I just did. You want to make clean, straight, up and down contact so your patterns come up. So I'm not sure about that, but I bet you if I left that leaf laid down with that color of contact made, it's definitely going to do another pattern for me. Again, this is experimental, guys. I'm just experimenting to see, do I have to literally touch every single vein? Because it seems like it needs every vein touched. Just like I did with the rubber stamp. I was trying to catch all 4 quadrants to get this to make contact. If this works, this is going to be really cool. Let's see if that worked a little bit better. A little bit better. A little bit better. It might make more sense then to still let it sit there and pour a little color over the top of it. What I was hoping for is to be able to get a clean pattern like the rubber stamp, blow it with my blow dryer and let it dry, and then be able to do the next phase to it without having to wait for it to go overnight. But this is still a work in progress in how we're going to do that. I'm going to get back to this, maybe not today, depends on how much time we got in this broadcast, but what I want to do is reveal what we did do yesterday in 3 broadcasts. So yesterday I wet the fresh leaf. I actually applied the chestnut twinkling H2O to these 2 leaves. This one had a little pink anthurium and chestnut brown. Then I poured pink grapefruit. I literally lifted up the leaf and poured some pink grapefruit underneath it. Poured a little green around it. Same thing with this one, same thing with this one. So when I pull them off, they're still going to be wet. Okay. So there's going to be more need. See how they're still wet? There's still going to need to be more drying time. And am I going to get enough of an impression to show those patterns that I was looking for on that leaf? Or is pouring all that color over the top not a good idea? Here's my second one. Ooh, that one turned out really interesting. See if I can get something to get that little bit off. Something in my arsenal, because that's just a fresh leaf there. Darn it, I need a straight edge. Here we go. Here we go. We're getting it off. Wow, that one turned out really interesting. Look at that. Okay. Here's the one that had a little pink anthurium. Oh, wow. Look at that one. Okay, so the very first one, I think I was wimpy on the color I poured in there, because as I kept going, I got braver and braver. Sorry, I'm trying to get these leaves off. I'm looking for something tiny. I have a tiny little screwdriver here with a dinky little head. I can find it. Oh, a bamboo skewer. That might work. Here we go. Let's take the tip of the, even though it's not clean, the bamboo skewer, and get these pieces of leaves off. They need to come off now right away. You do not want them to dry on there anymore. But I'm liking that pattern that we're getting here. Not too much paint. Who said not too much paint? Yeah, I actually used a little bit less paint in these. Come on, plant. I guess if I pulled them off about an hour ago, it might not have done this, but I really wanted to make sure I was pulling this off in front of you, man. I need some tweezers now. I want to make sure this gets completely off before it's glued permanently on here. So I wasn't planning on this, having to clean up the leaves in front of you guys, but this is the deal with lives. It's real life. And this is what's happening here. I don't want to ruin my paint job. Get off my fingers, get off my gloves. Let's not ruin the paint job here. God, when in doubt, wipe your finger on your pants, right? How else am I get? It's like it's sticky and wants to stick to my glove. Wow. The other one, the trumpet flower, didn't do this. Sorry, guys, but I'm going to see if anybody's making any comment. Yeah, how to clean the leaves. Yeah, but these are going to be beautiful once I paint this thing, because I have such a great start with this. That is gorgeous, but it's going to need a little bit of love and probably some tweezers. And you're right, this struggle is real. And if I'm going to do it right and leave all that delicate texture around that edge, right? Only nature can paint it with that much detail. There's no flipping way I'd be able to do this. Uh-oh, my colors are running from my wet area. Warning, warning, warning. Let me get my big brush. Ha, ha. Have to figure out what we're going to do with that area. I don't want this color running to go into the leaf next to it. So I'm pulling it off. This is why I have puppy pads in front of me, guys, so I can use this as a place to wipe stuff off. Nah, I don't want it. Interesting idea, though. Kathleen Neffert said maybe leave it on to make it interesting. You got a point. By the way, Mefford is a professional seamstress slash clothing designer and clothing designer for dogs. Anybody ever interested in her work? Of course, she may be retired. I may be talking out of turn. Okay, so I moved that color around because we had a little emergency. Now I'm blotting it. So I still have that irregular texture. Guys, me, she's we instead of Joan. That's very sweet of you. Joan, I put a big tray of pigments up. I hope you get a chance to watch the replay. I put a whole entire tray, probably had 50 jars on it. Some of the samples that are going to go in the mystery boxes, and we're taking reservations today. And how we're doing it is you tell us favorite color. We already know everybody likes blue and turquoise. They will be boxes with a rainbow amount of colors in them, like a rainbow, but uh, with a slant on whatever you say your favorite color is. For example, Evelyn likes purple, and then everybody's picking a metallic. Are you a gold, copper, or bronze person, Joan? Since you just came in, I thought I'd explain a little bit to you. There's a little bit of the leaf here on this one, but I think it's really interesting, the texture that I'm getting. See how that's drying there? The leaf is creating this really interesting texture. So I like laying the color on it first. Uh, Obviously, forest green might be a great color instead of chestnut brown, in case that's not your thing. Okay, so here's the big dot, 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 dot. Okay, big event. How did the hydrangea do? So I cut these leaves in the hydrangea about 2 hours before the broadcast. I think this part's kind of important. At that point, the hydrangea had flower head had flattened out. I thought I'd have to cut it in half, but it literally sort of flattened out. And so I brushed on a little bit of snapdragon where I could on the petals, a little bit of jasmine where I could on the petals. And then I took the Purely Pigments Peribelle, that's that periwinkle color from set 3, and made a liquid on it and poured it over the top. So we're unveiling this together. And I put something heavy on it. Okay, it looks like this is going to stick too. I put something heavy on it because when I did the trumpet flowers, they, oh wow, this is going to be interesting. The trumpet flowers didn't make contact. So this time I pushed something heavy on the bottom of this. So this could make contact. Holy moly. Look at that. That's kind of interesting. Very abstract-y. But look at the sparkle on those things. You could, now I see a little bit too much Peribelle. If I was going to do it again, my concentration of the Peribelle would be a lot lighter because it's kind of taking over. But I could see going in here with a pen and kind of marking out little sections that kind of had the shape of the hydrangeas. And then paint them in, detail paint this in. But this turned out kind of interesting in my first attempt of doing the hydrangea on this. I just want to make sure we get all these petals off that are sticking. Wow, this is kind of crazy. I mean, I could just do a little vein and say, oh, there's my little stem to my purple flower. Not, oh, we got a little bit of a flower sticking here. So that's not bad for experiment 1. This was putting the paint directly on the leaves, then pouring paint underneath them. And what I'm liking here is look at the how it's almost glazed. Yes, it's wet, but you see how that texture is forming under here? It's going to dry like that. These are all going to dry like this. I'm really excited. I cannot wait. You could. You could find the perfect flowers or plants or leaves to work with. Absolutely, at Michael's, find some shape that you find pleasing, some kind of flower head you find pleasing. Why not? Certain flowers like would be simpler, that maybe only have 5 petals and not a giant cluster, right? So I'm going to go back to this piece. This is the one that I told you last night I had to keep myself from painting, because this is going to need a couple more days to dry before I could even touch this up. But this is really interesting, and I'm loving the texture that I'm getting there in that area there. I hope it dries with all that texture from the leaves. So let's get this off the table and get it someplace safe. Come back here and have a little fun with this. So last night I couldn't help myself when I came in here to check to see if the hydrangea flower was sticking. I had to play. So all I was using was the pink anthurium. What's weird, look how the pink anthurium dried in the pepper plate after the paint all dried up. I was using the pink anthurium. Pink anthurium is more of a redder peach color, and it's an interference violet, where the pink grapefruit is an interference gold. Beautiful thing about the twinkling H2Os, you just get them wet again and you can play with them. So normally I wouldn't start with a big old messy plate like this. I'd see if because I can rinse that off. That's the one thing about the plastic plates. We can reuse them over and over again. So let's say I was going to start from scratch and I wanted to paint a certain area, right? And I know I like what the pink anthurium looks like. Thank you, Patty. You can do all these with your watercolors. Now, I know it looks really red in the pot, but remember, this is a deep, deep, deep pinky peach. So we're going to get a little glob of the pink anthurium. It's quite strong how it is. See how it's more of a pink? Okay, now it's really strong. So I want to get all the paint off on here I possibly can, because that's too strong to use it in that form. So I'm turning my brush, basically pushing off all of that color. Now I can use my wash water. I have my tub next to me. Now I don't know how many of you guys have seen these, but they have these watercolor tubs that has a place where you can actually see a place to lay your brush so you don't ruin your bristle. It's got little grooves on the bottom where you can do your brush. It has little holders on the side where you can put your brush side up so you don't ruin your point. But got to have a water receptacle next to you. And though this is going to feel like a waste of paint watching me do what I'm about to do here, in order to get the value that I want, I needed to get the paint into my palette. You can use wax, paper plate, anything. Now I'm rinsing off the brush, adding a little water to one little corner of it, because this is too strong the way it is. Again, I'm going to turn the brush one more time, making sure there's not too much paint on there. Now I can also use my little puppy pad, which is right here in front of me. I need you to know all this because I'm going to go pretty quick and just kind of move through this and paint it. So let's say I needed to get a little bit of extra paint off my brush. I got this puppy pad ready to go. Okay. If I need my brush cleaner, I've got my water receptacle right here to get it clean off my brush and go. So up here is where I started with putting the pink anthurium in here. So I added pink anthurium here where you see a slightly darker peach. This was mostly gold with the pink grapefruit. Okay. And trying to figure out where to put the plate so you can see me dipping into it. So I did a little bit last night on this side. So I'm just taking a little bit of the color. The suggested veins are already there from the plant, right? I'm going over a little bit of what I did last night. It's a little bit light for me. It needs a tiny bit more depth to it. Clean my brush off, give it a little moussey. So I've got a clean brush here and just kind of fade in my color a little bit, smooth it out. I don't have to hold, it doesn't all have to be the same on every one. This one I didn't do any of it yet. Just gonna go through here and start by adding some of a darker peachy tone through these. Because now they're starting to they're taking more dimension, right? They're taking on more dimension. I'm adding more dimension. Okay, here's one I didn't touch at all. It's completely raw from just how the color dried. It takes some pink anthurium, a little bit of water over here on my brush, and say, okay, I think I'll start again. I don't know what it is about the left, but in between where I've got these chestnut brown marks, I can start adding color. And if it feels like it's too rich, wiped my brush off a little bit so I'm not overdoing it. And suddenly these shapes are taking the shape of the leaf that was laid down in that paint. Like I said, nature is probably one of the prettiest, most beautiful paintbrushes out there. Now this part's super light and faded. There's not as much detail. This one's a little bit harder to guess at. You kind of have to assume this is going to be more of a suggestion behind the scenes. It may not be as bright as your focal leaf or leaves. This needs a little color here. Just kind of going around and adding a little bit of a peach pop. So it takes more form and shape. Now it actually looks like something. Now this is going to be the easiest one, and I did my very best to contain myself. I did put pink anthurium here last night. But something like this that has so much definition, it's real easy. I see my dark vein here coming through. So I'm actually painting the peach in between the veins, making it pop, giving more dimension. This is where that pink anthurium I stuck in last night. I can't read what anybody's saying right now. Sorry, guys. If you guys are talking in the letter or talking to me, I can't really read. The laptop, sadly, is too far to the left. Hopefully, a friend of mine sent me a wiped iPad. Now that I'm actually driving again, I messed my back up a couple weeks ago. Now that I can drive again, I just need to go down there and pick that up. I tried to reorder the Android cable, and even though it said it was the right one on Amazon, it didn't fit today when I tried to put it in and juice up my tablet. So sadly, I can't see. Now I'm going to bring some of the anthurium down on the right side just to shape the leaf, but I'm not filling in where that gold is. And on this side, it looks like it naturally started staining on this side. I got to say, this is really relaxing. I didn't want to stop last night. I just wanted to grab 2 or 3 colors, go sit in my chair and paint last night. And I said, well, I got to leave something for you guys to see. Okay, I just wiped my brush off, trying to get it to clean and see what kind of fading I can do. Do I soften? Do I fade? Where does it look like I need to still get my shape in place? I know it's only an illusion. Okay, so then what if I want to add some shadows? Now, this is sadly in the very center of this thing. My trumpet flower didn't take, so I'm freaked out that I've got this weird center space with nothing in it. So bear with me while I freak out because the composition's all off. And yet I have to keep telling myself, this is a test canvas, right? This is so we can learn a new technique. So again, I'm taking the pink anthurium. It looks a little bit too juicy to me. I need a tiny bit more richness to it because this needs a little pop of color down here too. Too much paint on my brush. I'm just going to wipe it off on my puppy pad. Puppy pad is like killer to have when you're doing this. That way you want to add more water, you can. That way you want to take the other water out and you don't have to worry about stopping and thinking about it, right? You just kind of do it. Okay, so shadows. Shadows are normally purple and blues. Now in this, we've got so much going on with color. Let me see if I can do something up here with this one, because pick an area, we can do this. So purples and blues. Now, I do have some wine and roses. It's a very, 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 very dark purple. Okay, I don't know if this is going to screw it up or not, but I'm going to try. I take a tiny bit of my wine and roses, and you can see me put it on the plate over here to the right, right? And then I only want a little bit on that brush, the tiniest bit on that brush. I'm pulling it out, and this time I really don't want it that juicy. Of course, I don't need my pink anthurium to mix with it, but let's see how much I can pull out. Even if I have to take my puppy pad and kind of just take some excess off, right? And then go in here and say, okay, where does the shadow go? Well, technically, this is the darker side. See, I get it mixed up. If the light was coming from here, then the underside of the branch would be here. But now I've got darker colors. It doesn't mean the sun's still not coming from that angle. It just happens to be my leaves so far have a blush tint there. This is a really fat line. So how can I wipe out some of it? I know this is a challenge doing this straight on camera with you guys. I'm putting myself out there. Might as well. So the wine and roses doesn't look quite as purple up against this green, all these colors. It's kind of taken on almost that chestnut brown cast to it. And if I wanted some shadows around my leaves, right, it would be based kind of underneath them. I just don't want the color to run into the color. So you'd be putting a darker shadow underneath it, but it has to fade out. It has to look irregular, faded out, like it's part of what you're doing. So then the leaf itself is framed. Come on, baby, work for me. Canvas is a little bit different to try to get it to be smooth. I think that's a little bit too red. If I'd gone with like a snapdragon purple, I think the wine and roses might be too red for that. But let me see if I can grab, I don't really have a blue that's wet. The closest thing I'm going to have, I don't have that many watercolors that are wet here. I think there's a royal orchid. And if I mix it, you're going to think I'm nuts. Mix it with a little bit of forest green. I'm wondering if I can get a really dark color that will behave as my shadow color. I mean, that's not horrible. Now look what happened. I took the Royal Orchid, mixed it with forest green, and look what it did. It made me the most beautiful, interesting purple. It did not make dirt. That's one thing about our colors. They just don't make dirt. Now, whether that's going to work here or look like it doesn't belong, I don't know. But if I was working on my piece, I'd be trying to create shadows in between that work. That is really interesting. The forest green and the royal orchid made that really strange dark color. I do kind of like the wine and roses in there. I'm going to add a little more wine and roses now that I've got some of that bluer weird tone in. And again, this is my piece. Going to grab a little bit more of the forest green. The forest green has a lot of blue in it. So that's why it didn't make an ugly color when it hit that purple. There's a ton of blue in it. I knew that when I grabbed it, but I still didn't know it wasn't going to make mud. I should know better by now because our color bases are so clean. It's really hard to make mud out of anything. So I just want to add a little depth of color on this one side of every one of these leaves to kind of suggest that there's a shadow in here. See if anybody's saying it. What did you mix with the forest green to get that purple? I mixed forest green and royal orchid purple, and forest green made that really interesting bluey purpley tone. And see, and I'm liking what it's doing here. I can keep muddling this out and then get to the point where I'm taking my paper, right, and doing this. Hey, Hope, how you doing, honey? Yeah, it's really interesting. So you see me with my little paper plate over here with that really strange blue I made with forest green. I'm adding one more drop of forest green to it. I'm going to add one more drop of the royal orchid to it. Mix it up again on the plate. See how it makes a beautiful tertiary kind of a blue violet? Great shadow color. It's just a magnificent shadow color. I just want my leaves to have a little shape to them. Well, that's a little bit too green for my liking. That little bit of green went there, a little bit green. So see, I just added some royal orchid right into that forest green to kind of get back to that purpley blue greeny tone. I don't know if I want to have enough to break it up or not. Probably not. And this is really risky what I'm doing, guys. I hope you realize I'm just like taking a risk and doing it live with you guys. But this is kind of what you're going to do for yourself. You know, where's your light? Where's your shadow? And just keep working it until you get the color that you want. Now, I don't mind this wine and roses, but considering everything else in here is warm, this little bit of this blue purpley tone is really going to look nice in here as I pull this out. Of course, I have a tendency to always use my fingers where I probably shouldn't, but again, so much of this is intuitive and I'm trying to explain what my brain is thinking as I'm going, but it's not like I'm planning out the course and say, use this color here and use this color here, and you must do it exactly like me or else. I don't think that's really creative. And I've seen a lot of teachers actually take the artwork out of the student's hand and say, you're doing it wrong, which would drive me nuts. Okay, so now I've got all this color over here. I keep calling it hard color, right? So I'm getting it really wet, really, really wet, because I want it to fade off naturally. I'm getting it really, really wet. And then I'm going to take this paper towel and give it a muddling. Let it muddle that background. Let it soften, okay? So you can't really see a hard mark where it started. So now I've started to create some shadows on this one side of this branch, all right? Now my little wine and roses vein looks a little bit out of joint, but you know, I could even go over with that forest green if I want to, that forest green purple combo. Just add some depth to that so it doesn't look like it's just hanging out there. Now I've created some really unusual shadows in my piece. So let's see, how much time are we on? 76 minutes, not too long. I've got some time. I can sit and do another area. Now, if I have the shadows over here, where are the shadows going to be on this side of the leaf? This is where I always get into trouble, because you still want a little light in here, right? So, because you need contrast. So if I was going to try to do a shadow around these leaves, and yet the light is coming from this side, my shadow would probably only be right at the base near that stem, just a little bit. So I'm using that that green, blue, green, purpley color. Not enough purple in it. Turned out way too blue. Let me get a little bit more purple in that mix. Get the excess off my brush and just kind of decide where to stop and start. And then this is a harder one to fade out, to say, okay, this is where the color ends. It's easier to just simply say shadows over here, no shadows over there. But there has to be something if the light is coming from there. So same thing, I'm going to kind of scrub this out best I can. A little bit of water. Just kind of move that color out. So it's just a suggestion of a shadow in here. Same thing, just a suggestion of a shadow in here. Just a suggestion of a shadow there. And then take my paper towel and try to model it before it takes over. And I also don't want that color to go in there where my leaves are. See, so now up here, we have a little bit of a hard line where I pulled it out. So you just keep working it up and then modeling your background till it looks more natural to you, because that looks way more natural. What do you guys think? Seeing if anybody says anything. Hey, Mandy! Thank you, guys. I'm really at a... So I kind of like that thing. I love the wine and roses with that color mixed with the forest green. Mandy, this is forest green mixed with royal orchid. And because there's so much color in that forest blue and that forest green, it works. Where's my paintbrush? What did I just do? Holy moly. Oh, here it is. I'm like, where'd my paintbrush go? So I'm kind of loving this right here. I'm loving that. Okay. So yeah, I'm really enjoying this. Okay, so Mandy, what I did is I took fresh leaves, this particular one, spritzed them with water, laid them down, poured pineapple, grapefruit, key lime, and then a couple hours later, I poured a little bit of chestnut brown, and all the color kind of collected around the leaves and formed this pattern. This was done with fresh leaves. We've got another one drying I did yesterday from the broadcast. It still needs to dry out before it shows up, but I'm loving this suggestion. I'm really enjoying what I did here. I'm afraid to go try to do another one, and I don't want to screw it up. So the wonderful thing about having the leaves kind of here and there and everywhere, I guess you can kind of pick which side the shadows are on, I guess. Uh, the Yeah, nature is probably the most beautiful paintbrush in the world, to be honest. So let's see. I mean, we really love how this one looks. I just hope I don't mess it up. So I'm going to do the same thing. We're going to make the shadows on the bottom, the darker here, and have this be the lighter side. So I'm going to wet this area where I want to kind of have my shadows go in. So I've got it all nice and moist. I was pretty happy with how the wine and roses reacted. So I'm actually going to see if I can kind of duplicate what I did. A little bit of wine and roses in here. And then I'm not cleaning my brush. I just wiped it off and I'm picking up some of that forest green mixed with the royal orchid. Because I kind of want to these hard lines are a little bit weird here, and so it's taken away from the shape of these leaves. It's too red. I don't want that red. That thing's red. So now I'm going to take that forest green and literally try to, forest green mixed with the purple, actually create an area here. I'm trying to get rid of this hard line here, which isn't going to work that well, but we'll see how well we do. It's not going to be perfect. Remember, this is very, very abstract. Okay. So I'm just filling in shadows right here on this bottom section as if the whole thing faded out. Once again, going to take my paper towel, do a little muddling, because then you're not worried about hard brush lines, right? You're not worried about it. Okay, now I can add a little bit more depth in here. I'm adding some wine and roses, and I'm picking up that interesting purpley, greeny blue we made. And I'm going to actually try to identify what might appear to be the vein of the leaf here. See if it lets me do this stem. Sorry, stem, not a vein. And the wine and rose is dark enough to almost look like it's got that chestnut brown look. So we're going to make a suggestion of the vein here, or the stem here. Come down here and get some of these stems also suggested. This is another thing I didn't do the other ones. This is another option, is to go in there and start identifying your stems. This is just a little wine and roses kind of put on dry, and then just the tiniest amount of water to pull that down to suggest the veins there. Who's saying hi to everybody who just came in? Hey, Shannon. Thank you, sweetheart. Thank you for the birthday, Hope. I appreciate you guys for saying that. So again, I'm going to do one more suggestion of a vein here. This is kind of dark. This is the wine and roses mixed with that foresty green. But I can soften it slightly with just the clean point of my brush, and it will soften out that color. And then I'm going to add some shadows in here around these leaves. God, see if I can do that with that purpley, bluey green that lets me do this. So I can make the suggestion of a shadow. Just a little pocket in here, and then it looks like it needs a little bit of definition. even though it looks like the leaves overlapped. And then I'm going to take some of that pink anthurium we were playing with before. I'm putting a little water on my brush here and picking up some of that pink anthurium. And just kind of touching up the pink anthurium, warming that up, finishing out the shape of this leaf so it belongs, and my little suggested stem is there. Now I brushed the pink anthurium across slightly on that gold, but just enough to make the suggestion that they're not separate leaves. Now I'm just kind of doing just a slight little brush so the color crosses over. And it looks like it belongs, but I still want the highlight on that one side. So here's more pink anthurium on my brush. Let's get that shape identified here. Feeling a little lost here right at this point. I don't know about moving some pink over because I want to leave a little light there. So I'm probably going to leave that area alone. I can add some more pink anthurium here. And the pink anthurium over the chestnut, over that pink grapefruit is just gorgeous. I'm loving this color combination. And that little bit of chestnut in those leaves really gives them a lot of detail. So, do I pick another section? Everybody's really, really quiet. I don't see anybody making any comments. And I'm wondering if you guys are still there, especially after yesterday. Oh my goodness. Yesterday we had to restart the broadcast 3 times, Mandy. We had to restart the broadcast 3 times. Thank you. So maybe if I'm looking at this, if the shadow's over here, technically the shadow should also be on this side too. And yet we could say it's coming down to where the shadow would come down here and then around this other area and this top would be. So we still got a little more time. My battery's not down and our broadcast was so cut up yesterday. I feel like I want to paint a little bit with you guys. So I have to pick my battles here. I guess I'm going to pick a shadow coming down here and a little bit up on this side. So to do that, let's go ahead and start. I'm going to do it what's going to feel like it's counterintuitive and upside down, but I can get to that area at an angle painting right-handed. So I'm going to start adding in some of this Royal Orchid mixed with the forest green. Oh, I need a little bit more Royal Orchid in that one. That mix is looking a little bit too blue. And then I'm going to make sure that my Wine and Roses has a little water in it in case I need to pick it up. Okay. And I'm just going to start doing the same thing I did on the other side, just creating a shadow around these. Yeah, that Wine and Roses mixed with those other colors is really interesting. I'm kind of liking it. I don't want to tilt it too much because we don't want it to run. It's kind of a challenge to paint this on camera with you guys. So if anybody still is interested in the mystery boxes, I need to talk about it again. If you just got into this broadcast, at the beginning of the broadcast, I opened up with a giant tray that had about 50 jars of my samples. It's one of the hundreds of them. I've got multiple trays in the house of samples I've made over the past 19 years. And we're going to create mystery boxes. All you need to do is say dibs, your name, make sure we know your name, your real name, in case you're using a interesting YouTube handle. And then if you had to pick one color, we know everybody loves blue and turquoise, so don't worry about missing out on that. Pick a color that would be a good focus for you, even though all these boxes will kind of have a rainbow mix. And then let us know what metallic you prefer, copper, gold, or bronze. Is it going to be about 24 ounces or be equivalent to about 24 jars of primary elements in there, plus prism pour samples, plus moon rock samples, plus, my God, you should see this stuff in the garage. And then the lab has had some oopsies over the last few years. We're also going to do I'm looking for my paper towel to mop that up. I've got a little puddle happening thing here. Anyway, while I'm doing this, I want to give you guys a chance, if you just came in, to hear about the mystery boxes. We're only going to make 45. I will post them up on the website Sunday, but we're taking reservations now because there's going to be a limited supply. I'll do 45 first. If I've got enough to do another round of 20 or 40, I will. But these first 45, I want them to be super luscious, gorgeous boxes. So I'm just going back and forth and adding. This looks a little bit dark over here. It looks like it needs to be faded out like the other side, because it's now looking a little bit too planned, like purple, purple, purple. It needs to be loosened up. Very inconsistent, very irregular. Get this top a little bit loosened up. Let's put some of this blue up here. I'll make it kind of interesting. And then move in with some of the wine and roses, so there's a transition between those two. And then kind of do my modeling again with my paper towel. So we've kind of created a shadow area to the left and a shadow area to the right. Okay, guys, so what do you think? What did she say? One of the little things, thank you, Audra. One of the things I like about is you always use color. It's just not one way. Thank you, Patty. Well, I know that shadows are always blues and violets. And I started thinking, what do I have right here that's wet? And the only thing I had that had enough blue in it was actually the forest green. And what a lovely surprise to know that forest green and the Shannon, okay, mystery box with gold, specific color. Are you a purple person, green person, orange person, yellow person? They're all going to have a rainbow, but we are going to do one color focus based on people's requests. And when I open up in the next event, I'll show them again. So Shannon, which color family are you choosing? Did anybody get her color family? Reserve a box for me with gold. So Shannon, you red girl, gold. Are you a red girl, a purple girl, a yellow girl, a pink girl? Hi, Audra. Happy birthday to me, and happy birthday to everybody else whose birthday it is. So thank you very much. Shannon's not answering us. I really don't want to get off the broadcast till we find out what Shannon's color family is. She didn't say it. Green. Okay. So she wants green and gold. She wants extra green and gold in her box. There we go. Okay. All right, guys. So I'm pretty happy with this. I know I didn't completely finish it, but I am liking this effect. I'm going to hold this up so I can get a good screenshot for the thumbnail. So if you don't mind me being terribly, yeah, I'm going to put it up again, let it do a still shot. That's not bad, considering I'm just kind of doing this on the fly. You know, Evelyn mentioned she wanted to do this she was thinking about doing this with her husband yesterday. like I said, I had to keep myself from wanting to paint on this last night. I just had to keep myself. I had to resist coming in here and running with the ball. And I knew that the other piece wouldn't be dry yet. Okay, so for Mandy, Audra, Shannon, everybody that came in late, I'm going to give you a peek at what we did yesterday that is still drying and can be touched up before we get off. So these were hydrangea leaves that I painted. Oh, Mandy, don't leave yet. Just 1 second. These were hydrangea leaves that I painted with Twinkling H2O chestnut, laid them down, and poured the pink grapefruit and the green over the top. And then this, of course, the hydrangea blossom with snapdragon and some jasmine and a little bit of peribell. And when this dries, I'll be able to touch this up too. Anyway, I want to make sure you saw this, sweetheart, because I was pulling this out just for you. This was the chestnut and pink anthurium combination, and I really like that color combo. All right, guys, so have a beautiful weekend. Thank you for joining me. If you get a chance to rewatch that broadcast, you're going to be shocked at this huge tray of pigments I put up on the table. And it's probably one of a dozen. Imagine a dozen of those trays with 50 jars sitting on here. It's been 19 years I've been making these samples. So we're going to have a ball doing mystery boxes for you guys. Thank you for the happy birthday, guys. Hugs and kisses. I'm so glad you could join us. See you soon. Definitely Tuesday at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Bye. Love you.